Okay, we are going to start on the chapter that goes over considerations for the initial session. And this chapter to me is particularly important because it goes over some of the logistics of how you even get started as a health and wellness coach. So, the learning objectives for this series of lectures is to first be able to describe some of the core components of a really well structured coaching agreement. The second piece is you want to be able to explain the purpose and appropriate use of screening and assessment tools in the context of health coaching. And that's really important because we go over assessment in other classes, but not specifically for health coaching. And then lastly, you should be able to employ effective interview skills to establish rapport and enhance client self-discovery in the initial coaching session. So let's get into some of those details. So that initial session that you have with a client or potential client is really, really important. It is during this time that you establish rapport, and that's also when the coach can provide some clarity regarding, what the actual coaching process is. So again, it establishes the foundation for successful client and coach partnership. And there's some logistical things to think about how you're going to do that, right? And it largely depends on the practical setting. So one of the settings that a health and wellness coach can work in is a clinical setting. And this is actually for me where I first started doing health and wellness coaching. So I worked as a lifestyle coach, that's what they called it back then, as a lifestyle coach in one of the hospitals near Fort Collins. And it was some of the practical hours that I did during my master's degree, which actually is really what led me to get to this field and why I love it so much. And so when you're part of a clinical setting, you are one of many different medical professionals that's working with that client. And so what happens is you might get a referral from a doctor, or you might get a referral from a nutritionist or a psychologist or any IST, right? Like any of the medical professionals that work under that umbrella at that specific clinical setting. And so if you're there, you might just get a client using electronic health records, which happened commonly to me. So when I would come in, I'd log in, I'd get access to the EHR, and then I'd be able to see who's coming in that day based on which doctor basically referred them to me as a lifestyle medicine coach. It also could work as a warm handoff, and all that is kind of old school, where rather than using the electronic piece of it, some sort of medical professional would come directly to you. The clinician would come to you and introduce the client to you directly. And this might be if you have a smaller studio or a smaller space, where maybe the medical professional, there's only a handful of people as staff there, and so they can easily kind of walk their clients to you. If you're working in a large clinical setting, that likely won't happen. They'll likely rely on the electronic health record. Another place that health and wellness coaching often happens is in the workplace wellness, right? So workplace wellness is a growing field. We kind of know that. And so it wouldn't be uncommon here that you would get your clients basically just from a list, right? Here are all the employees that work at this place. Here's their contact information. And then it would be up to you as a health and wellness coach to then reach out to them and enroll them either via the phone or via email. And then lastly, the last place that you can be a health and wellness coach as far as like logistics is in the private practice. And I would say this is probably where it's growing the most, is in the private practice, because we've created this ACE certification, and we have, ACSMs, well coaches certification. And so once you create these certifications, it becomes much more of a thing that people can do kind of on a global scale rather than just in these small clinical practices. So for me, I have my own wellness coaching company. You all know that. So I technically work in the private practice. And so I get my clients through word of mouth. So through other previous clients who have recommended them, or people who know what I do, and or through the digital media. And by digital media, we simply mean people who are searching for you via the internet, social media posts, any kind of advertising that you do on social or web. Okay. So many of you will eventually work down this private practice, although I will say that the two other avenues, whether that's workplace wellness or clinical, are also good avenues for you to work as a wellness coach and get clients. But it's important, right? Depending on where your clients are coming from, that might guide your initial interaction with them, because it might guide how much they actually know about what wellness coaching is. So since the client-coach relationship begins with that first contact, right, whether it's face-to-face or even if it's electronic, it's really important for the health coaches to consider how they could effectively manage and respond to inquiry in a professional manner. And the reason why is you want to be able to get back to that client and respond so in a very quick, respectful, professional way, right? So we need to have a framework that conveys an attitude of respect, acceptance, and really like enthusiasm, and we need to do it quickly and professionally, okay? So that's really important. And so it's in this first client-coach interaction that we see how important it is that we convey these attitudes of kind of just our values, right? Respect and acceptance. So now let's think about this, what kind of information should you be gathering? So say you've been referred a client or you found a client by word of mouth, whatever. What information do you need to get from this person? Now we need to take off our hats of any other fitness professional that you have, right? So if you're a strength and conditioning coach, take it away. Take that hat off. If you're a personal trainer, take that hat off. If you're a group fitness instructor, take that hat off. Right now, I want you to put on your health and wellness coach hat. What are the things that you need as a health and wellness coach? What information do you need to gather from them? So first and foremost, and this just makes sense, we need to have their name. We need their contact information, and we need to know what their preferred method of communication is. Some people never check their emails, and text is the only way to get a hold of them, right? Or vice versa. So that's important, just basic information to have, okay? We also need to provide our clients with information, right? So after we collect that information from them, we need to then give them something. And this is actually what we call a welcome packet. And so if you have a client who reaches out to you and you gather that basic information, you should then give them a welcome packet. And in that welcome packet, it should include an overview of what the coaching process looks like. So what is coaching, right? And then also what to expect, right, in regards to logistics. What's their session going to look like? How long is it going to be? How frequently are they going to meet? Are they going to meet in person or are you going to meet online, right? And then you also need to give them the different forms that client needs to complete before coming to your initial session. So I have an example for you of an email that I send out to my people when people are reaching out to me, and this serves as my quote-unquote welcome packet. So you might be thinking, oh, it's not paper, but I don't coach in person, right? So every single person that I coach is virtual. And so I kind of created this virtual space that I can use. And so you can use this as an example, feel free to read it. You'll notice that I do a pretty good job on the logistics of what to expect. I give them the well-being assessment, which is our kind of paperwork that we have them do. The one thing that you see that I don't go into a lot is just what is the coaching process. And the reason for that is that a majority of the time, I actually will have an initial consult, and I'll talk about that in a moment, with my clients before I send this email out. So I've already spent a lot of time talking to them about what that wellness coaching process is. So I really don't feel it's necessary to add that in this email. But again, if you don't do that, it's really important that you make sure that you provide some clarity as far as what the coaching process is in this welcome packet. So other things to think about as far as keys to success is establishing a standard professional response for a new client email, right, or phone. So what are you going to say? What's your kind of elevator pitch if someone calls you? What's your standard email that you give if they ask you, right, and they want to work with you? It's really important that you kind of have that ready to go because most people want to hear back from you within at least a day. And so I know we're really busy and many of us have, many jobs, hold multiple jobs, and so it can be kind of hard to manage it all. So that's one thing that will help you save some time is, simply just taking these kind of stock email or stock response via text or phone and having that ready to go. Here is an example for me. And so this is one of the initial coaching requests that I got from a client. So I included a little introduction, I included a brief overview of the coaching process, and then some options, right? So again, this is an example of kind of how I would respond to someone who's just reaching out to me for the first time. Okay, here's what this could look like, right? So now one thing to think about, and I mentioned this earlier, is this idea of offering a 15-minute complimentary session. And it doesn't have to be 15 minutes. This is just what your book says. Honestly, when I do this, our company offers a free consultation, and this consultation typically takes about 30 minutes. And the reason why is because I need that time to develop rapport. I need that time to connect to those people and to really kind of give them this explanation of why we do what we do and why it's so important. And so this complimentary session can allow clients the opportunity to experience the coach's style, so they kind of can see how you work, and develop a greater understanding of what health and wellness coaching is. It also will offer a client and coach a chance to determine if this is a good partnership, right? Because sometimes it's not. Or, sometimes you might have a colleague who's also in the same field who might be a better fit. And so that's also just something it's just kind of like a practice trial run. So I really highly recommend including some sort of complimentary session, whatever length you think is going to be appropriate, whether you call it that or consultation or whatever. But I think that piece is really, really important because it gives people some insight into what health and wellness coaching is. So let's pause here and do a quick little learning recap. First thing I want you to think about is what are the 3 primary settings that a wellness coach will work in and can work in? And then secondly, what information and or documents do you want to include in your welcome packet? Let's pause here and I'll see you for the next one.